Welcome to Puck Talk CS. After 46 years and 7 Olympics with NHL players competing, the United States of America is golden. An incredible Olympic contest, some of the best hockey we've ever seen. And I'm breaking it down here with my co host, Steve Murno, Matt Mugno. Steve O, 2014, you and I had just become friends, and we watched the disappointment of the semifinal. And since then, we've gotten the World Cup of Hockey in 4 nations, but we had our podcast in its second year for the World Cup. 4 nations last year was really fun to interact with our fans about, but and hockey fans. But this feels very special. I want to start with maybe where you were. I know you were at home, and so was I.
Yeah. How about America getting it done? Let's go, baby. Let's talk some puck, baby. Let's do it. Quite frankly, let's talk some puck. This is the last time that I'll be saying that for the course of the season. That like it means something. It's exciting. I was at home kicking it back, watching it with my dad. I know the last time in 2014 I was with you watching it.
Yeah,
Um,
we watched 4 nations together.
and we
So
did watch Four Nations together. And I was watching it and just wow, like the excitement, everything that went into the all emotions that went into this game. I think there wasn't one emotion that I did not feel during the course of the game. Whether it was coming out strong, Boldy with the opener, then Canada just absolutely pouring it in on us on the second period. To sitting there in overtime, scared. Canada got a lot of quality opportunities, and if it wasn't for Hellebuck, I don't think we're raising the gold. So there was it was a whirlwind of emotions. What a roller coaster of a ride. But how about you? What was your setup looking like?
yeah, I just want to, talk about something that I think means the most to the American side. Obviously, with Canada, I know the loss, but I think what I realized with this was how special it is. All the player narratives, the game itself, uh, unfortunately, the political context, and of course, the context within the sport and the sports world. I think that what my takeaway is that I got to experience something for the first time, or really the first time in my life, that I could enjoy it with my parents and my family, and then like talking with friends. And that's like a memory that will never ever go away. Is being there with the people you wanted to be there with, watching the game with, and that joy. I think that's the human nature of why we watch sports and buy in. And I think that is something I'll forever cherish. As you know, I know if you watched with your dad, and that's who you watch games with. That's who I watch the games with my parents. If I'm not reporting on them, and for me, grandfather passed away 2 years ago. I never got to see a Stanley Cup with him or a championship. So to be able to be there with people that mean something to you, I think is my ultimate takeaway from everything from this is like, that's a day I'll never forget. February 22nd, 2026. And for our parents' generation, the miracle was on tape delay. So they didn't get to see it live. So this was truly special in that respect. And I think that's what I wanted to start with on the episode, my man.
Oh, I love that. That's great. I thought of this the other day, because the next time the next Olympics roll around and we're playing the same things, both you and I will be over 30 years old. So I don't know where we'll be in life. Probably not be watching it with our parents. We'll be at different stages in our lives. So that's just how crazy. So anyone listening, to that end, just think about in 2030 where you'll be and watching that game, and hopefully you got to embark on a similar journey that we did. Watching it with our family and our loved ones, and that's ultimately a memory that we are going to look back at and remember. This was such a spectacular event. It's one of these events, in games that we'll be talking about when we're old, dog. How crazy is that? This
Yeah.
game will be talked about forever, or honestly, until the next one rolls around. And it's no guarantee that these two teams will be the ones that clash together next time this event rolls around. A lot of other teams, we talked about it. The competition is getting better. A lot of other teams on the rise. And I mean, we could never beat Canada in the big one. And when it came down to the gold medal, every single time they would beat us. and we finally did it. And I think, another big takeaway for me is that hockey here in America, we're in America, hockey is the fourth major sport in America, and there's absolutely no disagreement with that. I don't think there's an argument. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it's no doubt, but I will say this: four nations, and I think this Olympic gold medal game, um, have turned a lot of friends we share around big time. It's not a competition, but I think it's just an observation that right now we are seeing a great group of skilled players and passionate players that are making it interesting. So, although I agree with you, I do think that I'm not saying right now that it's still not in that four slot, but it's nice to also see it got its flowers overall yesterday.
Yeah, and when you look at it, it's here in the U.S. In terms of the U.S., hockey's not our number one sport. It's not our number two sport. Canada, that's their number one sport, and we beat them. At it. So
Mhm.
that just makes us all feel a little bit better. And big win for hockey. And if you're a Canadian listener, it's definitely tough. We understand what Canadians are going through here in New York. We've had our fair
Mhm.
share of moments here, not even just hockey, all across the board. But losing twice in the Stanley Cup, once in the World Series, and now on the Olympic stage, that's definitely that's a lot to deal with. So we know what it's like, especially here in New York. So it's tough one, but glad we finally prevailed.
And big picture, Steve, let's also set the table on the fact that this was really special because um, in 1980, the big picture was a lot of what was going on in the world and Russia's involvement in that. And then playing pro athletes versus college players, right? That's why that was the miracle at Lake Placid. 1960, Squaw Valley. Honestly, I'm not very well versed on that. So I think that's a subject I like to learn more about. But this year started with the Four Nations, which seemed like maybe a throwaway tournament. The players gave us a reason to buy in because before the tournament, they were like, "No, this is for all the marbles. We're taking this seriously." And then the anthem booing led to the fights on that opening round robin game for USA Canada. And that was just over a year ago on February 15th. That set the table for this Olympics. Obviously, then the loss for USA and the win with the best player in the world scoring the game winning goal in overtime in that final game set up this Olympics. And I think that's what made this one more of like a one and two, like a original and a sequel, in some sense, and obviously the sequel with a lot higher stakes. So, in terms of that, you just mentioned two Stanley Cup losses and World Series loss, and now Olympics loss for Canada. Obviously, the focus of that is the rivalry between Connor McDavid and Matthew Tkachuk. Um, Maybe before we get into specifics, let's start. Do you want to go kind of by the game, or do you want to go just one topic to another here?
I like one topic for another. I think my final opening thought, if I can, really quick,
Of course.
is the USA team. I think what a team this was. I mean, we were going to remember
Mhm.
this for the ages, and I think this is kind of, I think, a golden era for hockey right now, especially in the US. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that really quickly. Like, I think we're entering a golden era here in hockey. So especially on the US side of things. So I know you work in hockey, so I wanted to know, like, get your, building off of this in the last few years and and Four Nations, like, do you get a sense of that?
Yeah, I do. When you see the college hockey product being elevated, and now the CHL transfer to the NCAA, you're seeing that like these systems are starting to really change from when you and I were watching the 2014 semifinal, right? Like the guys in that game were mostly from yesteryear, and the younger guys were like Patty Kane, rock star. So,
Wow.
um, I do think it is changing, and I think it's great to see that there's so many new established stars. Like coming into Four Nations, we'd only seen these guys if they made the playoffs, right? Kachuk was in Calgary. Then obviously went to the Panthers, went to the Cup, went to another Cup. But like Jack Hughes, we've never really seen Jack Hughes in a best on best or a crucial game seven. Um, Hellebuck. I mean, he had all the narratives around him. Austin Matthews, we've never seen in a conference final. So it's great to see a lot of these guys for Team USA that were thrusted into these roles. Dylan Larkin, another example, right? So I love that you mentioned that, Steve, because it does feel like there's a lot of personality, and I feel like they've not only cemented a legacy already, but they're still young enough for this to continue. So it really is like a cool time to be in.
Yeah, and not even that, but just the younger generation that's sitting there and watching, not even just the men's side of things, but also the women's side of things as well. You know, watching the women win gold, watching the men win gold. This is going to inspire a lot of younger children to play hockey and ultimately going to lead to more development here in hockey in terms of the US. And I think that's only going to
Mhm.
benefit us, 10, 15 years down the line, even when we're like 50 years old. The result of that, I mean, it's going to be so everlasting. So I'm so happy about it. I love it. And I also think like yesterday's game, that is the best hockey I think you will ever see. I mean, you're getting the 10 best players, from each country coming together on the ice. And you saw that, on the ice from the first period. That was probably the fastest I've ever seen a hockey game played. Like I couldn't even, maybe you could say, yeah, it was, 8 o'clock in the morning, but I don't think it was that. I couldn't keep up with the puck in that first period. That's how fast things were moving. I mean, you look at Canada, you look at US, everybody was coming out right out the bat, right out the jump with a little pep in their game. And I think, just, seeing that, I mean, you will not watch, another hockey game, like this for a long time. So I'll spin it back to you. You could respond to that, or you could get us going with our first like main thought here, the epi.
Oh, well, geez. I mean, I think two things exemplified it, or three things exemplified that, right? Tom Wilson's hit at the start of the game, like he lined up Dylan Larkin, and that was that line's role. Bennett, Marchand, Wilson. They were supposed to be an intimidation line like that. And not your classic NHL enforcer line, meaning like these guys can do it both ways. Um, and then, you also had the Bold Eagle. What an incredible play. Your two goal scorers in this game are our age. They're 24 years old. Um, US development team and Boston College representative. But for Boldy's goal, that was an incredible effort. And I think he's an underrated and blossoming star in this sport. The Rangers, they used to call Schneider like Truba Jr. I feel like Boldy is like Kachuk Jr. Like he's physical and he can make some skill plays. I've really enjoyed his fit on the team, but holy cow, what a goal.
Yeah. Tom Wilson had a good game as well. Well, let's give him credit. I thought he had a good game as well. Just being disruptive and physical, especially in that first period. I thought he had a good game overall. But I think, what made this U.S. team, so successful in the end. Yes, Canada may have had the better players in the end, but I think U.S. and I think this is evidently clear. They bought into the idea of the Olympics and the closeness and everything. I mean, you could see, these guys really wanted it, and that was very evidently clear throughout the course of the tournament. And what did I say? On the epi, 2 epis ago, the U.S. was built on the back end. If I saw something, if there was a listener, that saw me say, you know what, there might be a hole in Canada's game defensively and goaltending. I saw that coming. The U.S. defense was way better than Canada's. Our goaltending was better than Canada's. We'll get to Hellebuck in a second. But the U.S., you have to give them credit because the U.S. roster was constructed and built to beat Canada, and that's exactly what they did. So I want to give all the credit, to all management and that kind of stuff because they had a plan from the start and they executed it well, and it worked. So you got to tip your hat to that. If only the New York Rangers had a plan and were been able to execute that well, that would make our lives so much easier. But I mean, you got to tip the hat to that, right?
Oh, 100%. Faber, Slave, like all of them came up big. The McAvoy save in the crease. What's funny? You know what I've been thinking about, Steve? We always grew up and your friends would get a jersey and it was Team USA and it was OC and it was a Ruzioni. Um, and we didn't live to see that, but the movie and the documentaries and the tape that you watch the full game and you visit Lake Placid. That's where I got this hat. It says Miracle on Ice on the back of it. Um, I read the Eruzione's book. He signed it. Like these guys are icons. And the way after McAvoy's save in the blue crease, for some reason, I just think of OC. I think of O'Callahan. Like he was that guy on the back end. It felt like McAvoy was the guy that you had all these great defensemen, but he was the focal personality guy on the defensive side. And Quinn Hughes, obviously, too, by the way. But he's more offensive geared. I thought he was McAvoy embodied the spirit of like dad's a plumber, tough dog, Boston Bruin, came in, shut the door when we needed it. So yeah, I could go through every player, but like you said, that really the 5-on-3 kill and McAvoy's save, um, those exemplify to me what this back end was built on. And I mean, Faber and Slavin, are their stick ever in the wrong spot on the ice? I mean, they break up everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice hat you have there, but I don't know if it compares to mine. I think mine might a little outshine that one just a little bit. But I agree with you. I mean, how about on the special teams? I mean, what a job did JT Miller and Vinny T do on the peak on the penalty kill? You know, on the PK,
Mhm.
they were fantastic. I mean, that is a very overlooked element of the game that I think that a lot of people looking back at this run being undefeated, I think a highlight overall is the penalty kill. I mean, you just mentioned
Oh
the
yeah.
5-on-3. I mean, I'm sitting there after the McAvoy and the 5-on-3, and I'm saying, you know, I don't feel too well, and that was a huge moment in this game that could have really turned the tide. Um, and then, of course, I mean, let's flip it over to, I think, probably the biggest storyline of this game, Connor Hellebuck. I mean, you look at
Hmm.
all the criticism that he's got in his career, in all the big games. When it comes down to a historical performance to win gold, you have to look no further than what Connor Hellebuck did in this game. I mean, he single-handedly was the best player on the ice in this game. I mean, he set a new record for number of saves in a gold game. I mean, 41 out of 42 shots against Canada. And you look at, I don't have the stats. I know you're a stat guy. This might be a tough one to find, but how many of those 42 shots were actually high quality chances that were good opportunities? I mean, I could think of at least 10 of them right off the bat. I mean, this was such a hard game for him, and he stepped up in every single moment. So I'll flip it over to you. I mean, he really is the MVP in my book, but Connor Hellebuck, thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, the save on Devon Taves is legendary. Like it's nothing short of legendary. And he also made the breakaway stop on McDavid and the breakaway stop on Celebrini. Um, in terms of a goaltender's performance, I not only for the United States of America, but overall, this is one of, if not the best I've ever seen. Um, when the world was in the goal crease, collapsing in the box, full shifts, he stood tall. Um, and this is also a guy I didn't know a lot about his personality, right? Like I keep up with the Winnipeg Jets, but I don't see every post game conference. I don't see every press conference that he's featured in. To see his personality in the post game interviews was also so fun. I really thought this was a great moment to spotlight him. He is a legend in the United States of America. Connor Hellebuck is a player that not only redeemed himself, erased, I think, all of those past conversations about winning a big game or coming up in a big moment. And I think the way you see a Jim Craig jersey hanging on the wall is hopefully how we look at Connor Hellebuck in years to come because that performance was truly spectacular. He is number one reason this team wins the game, no doubt.
Yep.
And some teams are truly built from the net out. That is obviously a pretty trite hockey philosophy, but I think this group was built net out. Hellebuck was the guy. The defense in front of him was great, and if they could get the goals, they'd get them. So, like you said, and I love that you mentioned JT and Millsy. I mean, JT and Troach too. I mean, 17 for 17 on the PK, and your goaltender's got to be your best penalty killer, and he was.
Yeah. I mean, you got to my first main question of the episode. I was going to ask you if this performance was enough to silence the critics. You just answered it and said yes. And
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you. I mean, that historic that stick save. I mean, that's going to be an image that is it's been passed all around the world. It's going to be one that we're going to remember for a long time. And we were getting outshot bad in that second period.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
I felt like I was watching New York Rangers hockey. You know, where the defense was on their heels and Igor was stepping up, you know, making big save after save. In this instance, our Igor was Hellebuck, you know, and he did that, you know, and he did enough to alleviate the pressure that Canada was putting on US. I mean, that was a masterclass on its own. Let's go over to my next big question for
Ooh.
you.
Want to
Oh, go
debunk
ahead.
something though.
Jump in.
Tired of. I'm not even going to get into everything the Canadian media said today because it's actually some of it's very embarrassing. But one thing is that I'm seeing like Canada was robbed of the goal. No, Connor Hellebuck put on an all-time goaltending performance. I don't sit here and say the Boston Bruins should have won the 2019 Game 7 Stanley Cup final. Jordan Binnington had one of the best goaltender performances I've seen in a singular cup final game, right? Like that's how I see it. So this is the best on best, best in the world. The rules are the rules, and the goaltender, who is arguably one of the most influential players on the ice, had the best game not only of his career but one of the best in Olympic history and USA hockey history. In hockey history, I'd argue for sure. So yeah, just want to state that real quick before we move on, Steve.
No, that's great. It's like you're in my head and you know where I'm steering the ship because that is exactly where I was going. Quick note there to mention, how about Nate McKinnon missing that shot? I think that he missing that wide open net, fanning on that shot. I think he makes that 9 out of 10 times. If he gets that opportunity, he's putting that in the back of the net. Now, my next big question for you is on the format, on the 3-on-3 in overtime. You know, a lot of people online. I just want to point out, I know you agree with me. There is no
All
softer
right.
group of people than
You don't
hockey.
have to lay it out anymore. The United States of America started Matt Boldy. So if you have a problem with 3-on-3 overtime, we started a 24-year-old, uh, you know, 20 plus goal scorer in the NHL. Team Canada started Nate McKinnon, Cale Makar, and Connor McDavid. Wait. Let's also backtrack. So Cooper mentioned I have a lot of respect for John Cooper in the post game about it as well. The Canadian media has been talking about it all day. I have no problem for the folks that are just stating like, yeah, I wish it was 5-on-5 because you know what? I agree with you, except you can't use it as a crutch. The United States of America, first of all, they lost 2010 4v4. The Sidney Crosby golden goal was 4v4. So, second, it's the format. Win in the format. Just win the hockey game. I mean, they had every chance to win the game. They have inarguably the best player on the world, and the 1A, 1B, if you want to say McDavid, McKinnon, and then they have Cale Makar on the back end starting. I don't want to hear about 3-on-3 overtime ever again about this game.
I
I'd
agree
love
with
to
you.
see it change, but I'd love to see it change. But
I agree with you 100%. I knew you were going to agree with me. I wanted a preference before that, you know, there is no softer group of people than hockey Twitter. And I know you 100% in particular agree with me.
oh yeah,
You know, listen, of course the Canadians are going to hate it, but what else is new? I mean, at the end of the day, 3-on-3, you think favors Canada even more. Like that's more open space for McDavid, McKinnon, Makar. You know, yes, in 2010 it was 4-on-4 when we lost, but I didn't hear any Canadians complaining then. Let's not forget that Canada also won in this tournament on 3-on-3 in overtime.
mhm.
So I didn't hear any complaints from them going, "Oh, we shouldn't have won this game, or we don't want to take credit for this because it was 3-on-3." No, get out of here. You know, you had McDavid, you had Makar, you had McKinnon on the ice, and you still lost. And there's nobody else I would rather want on the ice than those three guys
Yeah, that's
right
like a
there.
movie script. It's like, oh, the three best play. It's right. Like you can't even write that.
Exactly. And those are the three guys that I would want on the ice. If I could pick, you know, McDavid, McCarr, McKinnon, those are my three guys I'm rolling out on a 3-on-3, and you still lost. So I'm with you. That conversation ends here. It ends right now. US gold. Let that sink in. Next big question. Sidney Crosby did not play. How much
Yeah.
of an impact do you think this would have had, and would it have changed the outcome?
Um, I don't think you can deny that it could have changed the outcome, right? Like the way McKinnon and McDavid play the game is high octane. The way Sidney Crosby reads the game is he's 3 steps ahead of you. He's puck possession. He's got arguably the best legs. You're gonna laugh at me. The best hips in the game of hockey. Um, and that allows him to traverse the offensive zone and protect the puck and set up his teammates. He's a leader. You can't deny that that would have helped them, right? And he always seems to come up in the big moment for them too. Even in the World Cup of Hockey, I think he had 1 or 2 assists to help Canada overcome Team Europe. Um, so yeah, I can't deny that he definitely could have changed the tide for Team Canada. It's unfortunate. It is truly unfortunate that he was injured. With that stated, it is the game of hockey. Radko Gudas hit him. It was clean. It was unfortunate. And the way this tournament went, anyone could have gotten hurt. I mean, Tom Wilson absolutely like put Larkin on the train tracks to open the game. I think if Larkin gets hurt, maybe that conversation is very different. So again, game of hockey. Sidney Crosby received a hockey hit and he got injured. And it is really unfortunate. I actually would have loved to see him play the United States. It would have made that this game that much more legendary. If USA won or whatever the outcome was. But at the same time, it's hockey, man. Things happen. I want to know what your thoughts are. I mean, I feel like it's kind of hard to deny how impactful Crosby is for that team.
Yeah, I actually, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna say there's a part of me that kind of wanted him to play. I wanted to beat them with their best. Not that him not playing doesn't lower the value of this win. I'm not saying that by no means. But I think even if he did play, there's a chance that we still beat them. And let's look at who did play. I'm looking at Celebrini out there. I don't think he had the bestest of games. He was noticeable with his speed, but a lot of his shots were really, missed the net and were a little crazy. I thought he had a couple of shots that were crazy shots that were not good quality opportunities, and it kind of felt that he jumped the gun a little bit and felt like he wanted to,
Yeah.
be hero. And I totally get that. That comes with the age that he's in and the situation. But a lot of his shots were a little crazy, I felt like. So yeah, I think I kind of echo everything that you're saying. I think it could change the outcome, but it doesn't. And at the end of the day, it's still a 2-1 USA victory.
All right. Let's talk about Kale McCarr ties it. Third period felt like survival, but overtime comes, right? We just talked about 3-on-3. I want to ask you what you thought the biggest play of the game was.
Whew, that's a good question. I think the biggest play of the game has got to be, and this is a simple one, that Hellebuck save. I mean, that's a goal.
Which
Nine out
one?
of the stick save
The Taves?
on
Okay.
tape. Yeah, that's a goal 99.9% of the time. And if that goes in, the game's over. We don't win this game, And I think after that save, there was more of a momentum on USA, and USA started saying, you know what, we got bailed out a little bit. Let's kind of slow things down and regroup. And we started to see more quality opportunities and actually carrying the puck out of the D zone at that point. So I thought that play was very big in particular because the momentum was 90-10 Canada USA at that point. Let's be honest, we were getting hammered at that point. So I think that was the biggest play in that game. I don't want to. I'll give you before you say yours. I'll give you a little tip of the hat. Runners up. I don't want to discredit at all the play that Wisniewski made getting that puck and tracking.
Wisniewski.
Uh, why am I forgetting his name?
Wierenski.
Wierenski, yes, thank you.
There you go.
I'm playing the highlight in my head. The play that he made to track that puck down and get it to Hughes, at in OT. I want to tip the hat because that was a tough play. But I got to go with the stick save.
Real okay. You're going best player. Best player makes the best play, right? I'm going with Wierenski in overtime. To not only you actually Jack Hughes poke check too was incredible. What a read by Jack. um, to poke check McDavid, get it past him. I mean, Jack's about our height, and he reached out to make that play full wingspan. Zach Werenski, that was a 90-10 puck. Like, that was not even a 50-50 in the corner. That was a 90-10. McKinnon looks over his shoulder, takes a moment before he gets to it. And Werenski guts glory right there. Not only does he separate McKinnon, has the patience to look, and he's got Hughes streaking in. I think Zach Werenski's play was all world. And I think Zach Werenski in this tournament earned a lot of my respect at Four Nations, but he has now solidified himself in hockey history, and I couldn't be happier for him. I mean, that play was just all guts, just will. Like, that was not a puck that just came out to him on a pizza. Like, he fought every inch for that, and he stood up one of the best players in the world for it. I think that goes back to kind of the thesis of this win, which it wasn't a miracle, but it took a lot of guts, and it took, um, you know, capitalizing on the biggest moments. And even for Hellebuck to make that save was like having the moments really helped this team overcome and prevail over one of the best teams ever assembled.
Yeah, and Werenski's played great the entire tournament. It wasn't just this game. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
extremely happy with the way he's played. So I do have to agree with you on that point. I'm a big proponent of, the best players got to show up and make plays
Mhm.
when, in the biggest moments. So I'm glad that you said that. I want to ask you about Austin Matthews now.
Yeah.
That's kind of another question I have. So I thought in this game defensively he was great.
Mhm.
He made a lot of good defensive plays, especially in the first and third period. He was a little quiet in the second period. I was wondering where the hell is he? When we need our biggest dog to step up, especially offensively, where is he? But I want to ask you, was this enough to start to change the needle in his narrative? We got your input on Hellebuck, but was this enough for Matthews to kind of move the needle in his conversation?
Wow, I'm sitting firmly on the fence on this, but I will tell you this. This is where I believe it is. Austin Matthews, we know he can score at will. Okay. He hasn't scored the big goal. Okay. We know that. He didn't score in this overtime. Okay. He hasn't scored a big goal as a Maple Leaf, right? Like an overtime series winner, a big goal to, go ahead in a game seven. But his defensive play to me stood out because the team needed that in this game. Yeah, they needed scoring. We know that, but they won. Okay. Hindsight's 2020. They won the game. His defensive efforts to me showed a major maturity in his game at his age, where now he's in his prime right now. If your top center can play both sides of the puck, he can score 70 goals. He can score goals. He reinvented the way shooters release a wrist shot and a snapshot. Um, he's a shooter. He's a goal scorer. We're still waiting for the big one. That might come as a Leaf. That might come down the road as an American representative. But I will say the way he played on defense in the last three games of this tournament against Sweden and definitely against Canada, that's elevated Austin Matthews in my eyes. He's no longer just okay, he can score goals, but you can't really rely on him on defense. Um, Add that now to not only the Olympic gold he just earned, but to his resume. So I do think it's enough. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree. I think it is enough at this stage. I think when you take a look at him and you put him into different, situation, obviously when he's over in Toronto, I think when he's in Toronto, he's going to need to produce more than he did in the Olympics. I think in the
Mhm.
Olympics, it's a little bit of a different conversation, considering all the dogs that are on that team. But when he's in Toronto, he needs to play like McDavid level, MVP, best player, and he is honestly their X factor. No, what
Yeah.
McDavid gives you is going to determine how far the Leafs go. It's a little similar to the New York Yankees and how Aaron Judge. Judge is going to determine how far the Yankees go. It's the same situation in Toronto. So I do agree with you. I think situation's a little bit different, but I would still question. He's going to need to give more He's going to need to give more in Toronto for the Leafs. So I question if he could give you that McDavid level performance. But in terms of this Olympics, I agree with you. I think he was fine. Um, and now that I mentioned McDavid, I want to ask you in terms of he was the MVP.
Yeah,
Quick
yeah.
thoughts on that. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, these are my thoughts. He's the best player in the world. I actually think something that's also been embarrassing about Canadian media is they're acting like we don't know that. Like we know that. Trust me, we know that. He is the best hockey player in the world. By the end of it, he might be the most talented hockey player of all time. He arguably is right now. I personally believe that in terms of how the game has progressed and where we're at now. I'm also more subscribed to the belief that there's like a goat of each generation. What fuels the goat conversation? Trophies. And listen, this is the best player in the world, arguably the best player by skill of all time. Um, but at the same time, and listen, this is a guy that still has at least two Olympics in him, a World Cup of hockey coming up. And it's not like the Edmonton Oilers, like as long as he's there, they can compete, right? You just mentioned Aaron Judge. It's kind of the same thing. Like when you have a player of that caliber, you always should be able to compete. It's almost like it's on the management if the team's not doing that, right? But at the same time, that does not change the fact that he's lost in two Stanley Cup finals. He won four nations and he scored the overtime goal. But like the lights are brightest in the Stanley Cup final and the Olympic gold medal game. And he didn't get it done. That's where we're at right now, is that he hasn't won the big one. Okay. That's where we're at right now. And I know, like I just said, he's still got tournaments ahead of him. He's still got as many Stanley Cup playoffs as the Edmonton Oilers going for the next 10 years. This is a guy I also thinks is extremely healthy. I think sports medicine has changed. He could play longer, right? We're seeing Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin look like they did 10 years ago still. That wasn't the case for generations past, right? Like, so let's be for real. Like the guys from the 70s, they were like smoking cigs in the locker room. And I'm not taking anything away from them either, but point being, health's changed. His longevity in the game is could be a lot longer than what we're seeing right now for the modern athlete, in 2026. So to me, it's just he hasn't won the big one, and that's the reality, and that's a fact. It's not a slander. It's not like he's never going to. It's just that he hasn't. And in inarguably, at least where we're at in the world right now, our relations with Canada between the US and Canada, this was a huge stage and he didn't come through on it.
Yep.
Not the whole tournament, he was great. This game, he played really well, but he didn't score the big goal, right?
When it comes to do or die, I see what you're saying. He didn't get the job done, and I love the comparisons to Josh Allen. I think that's a nice comparison. I will say, if you're a
Yeah.
Canadian listening, at least Connor McDavid's made those games. Josh Allen has not.
Oh,
But
100%. I mean,
I,
the Oilers made game seven. They made
exactly.
a game seven. They made a gold medal game.
I would respond to your point. I do agree with it, you 100%. But I would say there is also no. This doesn't apply to the Olympics, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get back to that moment. And I
Mhm.
do think Connor McDavid, of course, will be back in the Olympics, and he'll be back in the Stanley Cup for sure. But when will the next time the Oilers be back in the Stanley Cup? There's no guarantee, that they will be. You look at the next,
Sure.
you look at the next 10 years. How many Stanley Cup opportunities will the Oilers get? One, maybe two. I know that they just got two, but other teams in the
Hopefully this
competition,
doesn't come back on us, man, on like freezing cold takes exposed.
I don't think it will be.
I hear you though. I hear you.
There's
Because look
no
at Aaron, we're New York fans. Look at Aaron Judge. Look at Josh Allen.
exactly. You look at
Look,
Henrik
Jim
Lundqvist.
Port, Henrik Lundqvist. Look at, I mean, goaltend. It's funny. Like I see where there's a lot of semantics in the conversation, but the conversation about the best player in the world, like how many chances we're now seeing with Aaron Judge, it went from all right, we got Judge for 10 years to like, oh my gosh, what if we don't win with Aaron Judge?
Mm-hmm. And I brought up Josh Allen because Josh Allen, yes, he can do it all, but at the same time, they still come up short every year. And you bring up the
Mhm.
conversation, Judge, Allen, McDavid. There's only you can only do it up to a certain point in your career. Because I don't know if Connor McDavid is sitting here in 7 years and he's playing at the same level that he was, the 2 years that the Oilers did make the Stanley Cup.
I
So
think that's still pretty good though.
I would agree with that, but
Yeah.
again, there's no you don't take anything
Look
for
at the
granted.
Penguins. I mean, the Penguins, they won their two cups. Sidney Crosby was this age. Connor McDavid's 29. I believe Crosby was 31, 32. That was 16, 17. You could check me on that or not, but going off the dome here, Crosby then never made it past the second round of the or first round of the playoffs after that. Penguins are looking really good this year, and he's a perennial threat. But I totally get what you're saying. And again, McDavid's 29 now. It's a little bit of a different conversation than Jack Hughes, who I know we have to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, Jack Hughes, this whole tournament has been absolutely incredible. I think what stood out most to me is his precision on his shots. I mean, his shots have been money all across the ice. You look at all the goals that he scored. I mean, all of them almost on different angles. But also his speed and his confidence. I mean, he's kind of been skating with a little bit of a swagger throughout this tournament. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I mean, put all together, I mean, this is a tournament that I think both Hughes brothers will never forget. I mean, both of them are playing at such a high level. And I think you got to tip your hat to Quinn Hughes as well. I mean, being out there and playing the minutes that he's played. I mean, we relied on him so much in this tournament. So I think both of them, I mean, enough credit has not been given to both of them yet.
Yeah, he was seeing the ghost of Miracle Past. I love that joke. It's too good, man.
Yeah.
Also, the meme where he's like, one more. There's the beer at the press conference. Too good. They've endeared themselves to me. I'll tell you right now. I question Jack Hughes is our age, still very young, right? Like we talked about McDavid, he's now in his prime. And he's a guy that like who knows how long his prime could go. McDavid could go, like I just said, for a long time. Jack Hughes, to me, was just a player that never made it past round two. Really, frankly, never really made it past round one. Defeated the Rangers in that one series. When he came into the NHL, they protected him a little bit. He had the injury earlier this year, and it only fueled the injury prone conversation, which has a lot of validity to it, right? He's never played a healthy 82. Um, there was so much there that I questioned, and I really still think it's valid in hindsight. Not to make myself like feel better, but you just look at everything I just mentioned. Not a full 82, injury issues, uh, playoff success. And you could say, okay, that's team success, but the Devils have been a team that should have at least maybe been a little bit better the last few years. I think all of hockey can agree with that. But Jack Hughes, the way he spoke post game, scoring the golden goal, I mean, that's probably going to inspire a generation of kids. Um, Not he took the whack from Sam Bennett to draw the penalty. Jack Hughes has endeared himself to me. What about you? I put aside Devils, Rangers, I put aside all that. And to me, it's USA, and he won it for us.
100%. Of course, watch. We don't play those games like that. We could come together at the end of the day and root for a common enemy on the same team in an event like this. But I 100% agree with you. And I think he, given the conversation in New Jersey for him, I think he's a great player. I 100% agree with you. The Devils are definitely a team that everyone agrees should have been better the last few seasons. He's like Adam Fox in the sense where when he's on the ice, he makes an impact, and when he's healthy, he will give you the best he's got. And unfortunately, the last few seasons at different times, he's not been healthy, and that has hurt the Devils. And I just don't think the Devils have enough around him in order to be, competitive.
I agree.
But going back to the Olympics, like I 100% agree with everything you said about him. I don't have anything new to add. I think, and I love the post game press conference and the post game you know uh the press conference and all the interviews that they give him with him. That one interview is one that will certainly last a lifetime. I mean, how inspiring. I mean, there's nothing more red, white, and blue that you get out and saying it in an interview. So I love that. I think it was awesome.
With no teeth.
With no
With no
teeth.
teeth.
Yes.
American flag trade. And this is a guy, you know what? We were critical at Four Nations, right? And I think something that I enjoy about this experience is you mentioned Hellbuck, you mentioned Matthews, and now we're talking about Jack Hughes. These are all guys that had something to prove. or something that we talk about, right? Like you and I talk about on this show, what you hear on the radio, what you hear on social media. Um, to see them break through was so special. And to see those guys break through was fantastic. Like in the biggest moment, Jack Hughes, Austin Matthews, Connor Hellebuck, Zach Wierenski, Quinn Hughes, like it brought so much attention to truly how talented almost all the players on this team are. But with Jack, to see where he went from Four Nations to now is incredible. I love the maturity in his post game and overall. And you know what? His skill broke through, and it was exciting to see, especially for Team USA. But yeah, it would be wrong not to talk about Jack. I mean, that goal is probably the best hockey goal I've ever rooted for in my experience with hockey.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, a lot of different contenders in our lifetimes, but I certainly agree with you on that sentiment. And it's just one of those things that you'll always remember that feeling when you see the puck go in the back of the
Hesitation
net.
too, right?
Yes. I also want to sit here and shout out, NBC as a whole. I think that
Yeah,
they
let's
were
talk about that.
I do. Let's talk about our guy Kenny and Eddie. And I thought everybody was great all around. I thought the broadcast was great. I thought they did a great job. From that standpoint, and of course our guy Kenny Albert. I mean, what does he not do? The golden goal call that's one that's gonna last a lifetime. I
Yeah.
thought overall it was fantastic. I no complaints there.
Yeah, no, NBC, I bought Peacock. I'm a person that's so against like I'm like a cable TV
Me
guy. I'm like
too.
an old
Me
head,
too.
right? So like the whole streaming thing, like Glenn always makes everyone always makes fun of me. Like, oh, just buy it. So we bought Peacock for this. Their coverage was incredible. There was hardly replays. There was always something to watch. There was always a show to break down what you're watching. The analysts were great, like from Johnny Weir um to Eddie Olczyk, right? People were more familiar with or are more niche. Bill Spalding, amazing. Kenny Albert, he did in 4 days two of the greatest American hockey calls of all time. And Mike Tirico flies from the Super Bowl to Italy and then does like every moment he was on the TV. I don't know if his post game, by the way, after the hockey victory for the men's team, I don't know if that was ad libbed or a prompter, but whether it was written beforehand or off the top of his head, it was some of the best television I've ever seen. So that whole NBC did an amazing job with this.
Yeah, and Mike Tirico's good with that. Even on Sunday Night Football,
So
he
calm.
yes, yes, you
I
know,
also like this, Steve. I wanted to mention something. Broadcast jives. I want to hear your opinion too. I liked that they had Kenny broadcasting play by play. He would talk to Eddie at one intermission, and they had Mike Tirico either speak in the other intermission or do an interview. I thought that was great to give the broadcaster, the play by play guy, a little bit, not less of a responsibility as a knock to Kenny's abilities, but to give him a little bit of a breather to keep his mind in one space and allow Mike Tirico, who does an amazing job as a broadcaster, to also share that space. I thought that was great.
I also thought it was great for another reason. I thought it was great to get different opinions between intermissions.
Yeah,
You flip back between that, and then the next intermission you're going to, we're talking to TJ Oshie. I thought it was great just to give a new perspective on what's going on in the game. I thought it was refreshing. I thought it was very engaging. So I liked it from that standpoint.
Catherine
Um,
Tappan's awesome too. With the like as a sideline reporter, she was great.
yeah, I
Boucher
thought
in between the benches was great. Like Jack Hughes got hit in the mouth 3 seconds later. Jack Hughes lost his teeth. Sometimes it feels like you have to gravel for information in the hockey world, and it felt like they were on it.
Yeah, no, it was great. I said this to you a couple weeks ago. I love their vests. Oh my goodness, I want to get one of those vests. They were rocking that. Now I want to ask you, what do you? So now that the Olympics is over, will you cancel Peacock, or are you
Oh
still
yeah,
riding with it?
it's like $10. Yeah, yeah.
I feel that. I feel that.
All right, wait,
Um,
wait, wait. I don't know what else you want to talk about, but I do
sure,
want to mention
sure.
the uh the poise and the acknowledgement of the Goodrow family was incredible. Um, I just thought that was amazing. I just wanted to obviously mention that and not let that just go to the wayside. Yeah, that was powerful, and it's a shame because I know you were the biggest Johnny Gaudreau fan. Um, he felt it felt like he was there and that he was part of this team. Um, because he was. He grew up with these guys, he played with these guys, and I thought that was really special.
Yeah, that's why I made a comment earlier about the U.S. team, buying into this whole thing with the Olympics, and I wanted to end on this. I thought it was great that they took his kids out onto ice to take the photo and hold his jersey. I thought that was fantastic. I mean, if you search any YouTube compilation of top 10 best sports moments off the ice in terms of raw emotion, I mean, this has got to be top 5 for sure. Obviously a
Mhm.
top 10 moment. And it wasn't just the fact that they won and they were like, oh, here's Goudreau's jersey. They had his jersey in the locker room from the start of the tournament, and he was there like
Yeah.
every step of the way. So that I thought made that that played to that element and made it 10 times realer. And I'm glad that they won it. It's such a great sports moment. How could you not whip out a tissue for tears in a moment like that? So I loved it. I was a big me, I was a big Johnny Hockey guy, so I loved it. Also, a little disappointed that did you know that the coaches don't get gold medals?
Yes, because with the women's victory, they had said that, and their head coach is amazing. So
Yes,
I was
yes,
disappointed for him because they had a great shot of him crying on the bench. Like you could see him turn from like celebrating to crying. And when I found out about that, I was like, oh man, that's like it's a shame, because they they're guiding these guys to victory.
yeah,
So
I
it
know.
you can't overlook that.
I kind of felt bad. I think on the women's side of things, their coaching deserves a medal. Our coach Sully and the rest of the boys, they deserve one. It kind of feels bad. I think Sullivan alone for just having to sit on the bench and deal with coach all the shit that we've been through this year. I think he deserves a medal just for all that. But again, great
It's killing
coaching.
me though, man. I was saying earlier that I was like, wow, John Tortorella and Dave Quinn are gold medal coaches, man.
um,
Um,
is there anything
all right, I
else
want to,
that you wanted to bring up that we haven't touched on here?
it's funny. Like, I feel like we're just going to be talking about this forever. And we should. But
Right.
I will say also in defense of like the Kachucks, I saw a lot of like, hey, didn't feel like they were really there in that gold medal game. The Kachucks are the reason this team is the way they are. Like they are the heart and soul. No, they didn't score the big goal in this game, but I mean, their impact at Four Nations and now their impact that carried over into the Olympics, that they're the glue guys. They're really the guys that have gotten us there. So, listen, I get it. I do. I do understand some of the criticism for them. Because honestly, I'll say this: like, I didn't feel like I saw Brady Kachuk too much yesterday. I didn't really feel like I saw a lot of Matt. He missed the open net, but they're the reason this team is there. And to me, that's not being a passenger. It's a full team effort. And I think this USA team operated as a team. It was a team build, not a collection of stars. And I think that's what helped them prevail.
Yeah, I think you'd be crazy to sit there and think that they did not have an impact. Not you in particular, but anybody.
Yeah.
To sit there and say, you know what, they didn't have an impact yesterday because listen, I might not be on the bench for USA, might see what goes on behind the scenes, but I could tell you for a damn fact that, a player like Matt, who's been in there, who's been in that situation, who's been in the last 2 cups, who's been in a win or die moment, having him on the team is definitely a present, especially as Brady too as well. I mean, you look at the moment in the in between the bench moments where they have the live mics and Brady was wearing a mic. He was, the biggest motivator, getting this team going and especially getting this team through that second period when it was kind of very easy to sit there and crumble into a bowl in the corner and let Canada keep pounding the shots on. And Brady was the one that was trying to fire up this team and get this team going, in terms of momentum. So I could tell you from that standpoint, you do not have to be in between the benches, or on the bench in order to recognize that part of their game. Yes, they may have been invisible here and there at certain points of the game yesterday, especially as the game got late. But their impact was definitely felt, by this team. And I agree with you. They are like the heart and soul of this team. It's not just, a lot of people, especially when you win, sit there and say, they didn't do anything in that win. Well, you got to look at the whole tournament overall, because
Last 2 years.
exactly, you look at everything in Four Nations as well. I mean, they were such a huge driver and a huge part of this team. So I think that would be unfair to say, especially for them, on that note. So
I cannot wait to see them at the White House.
I know, and I think
Can't
they're going
wait.
to be at the State of the Union as well,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
going to be pretty cool to see.
Hopefully,
Um,
yeah.
So now it's gold for USA, but sadly to end, it's back to reality. New York Rangers hockey, and this is back to business. I gotta bring it up. It's so sad, but the New York Rangers will now have 25 games in a 7-week span to conclude a season that's been really, really shitty. So to end here, I want to ask you now, as we are returning to reality. The miracle is now ending. What are you looking forward in these last 7 weeks of New York Rangers hockey, just overall?
For it to be over.
I
Nah,
love
I
that
mean,
answer.
yeah, I mean, trade deadline, let's see what they get. And then, like, honestly, it's like, well, I guess we'll monitor whatever prospects we get in return or hypothesize what first round picks we can utilize those picks for. Um, I feel like there's not much to say. Maybe getting Fox back and Chesterkin back, but talking about the Rangers right now, it just feels so wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. On a positive note, I do want to say that Zibanejad, our leading scorer now that Panarin is gone,
Yeah.
I thought he played really well in the Olympics. Especially getting that late goal against us in that quarterfinal game with under a minute to go. He had 6 points. I think it was 3 goals, 3 assists. I thought he played fairly well, so I'm curious to see, with now no Panarin, how he steps up and what performance does he give you for the rest of the year, because I think that's going to be very important and determining, where this team goes. Is he, an answer or a part of the solution for the next, year or two onward? I think
Mhm.
that's going to be key to determining. So USA wins gold. You have any final thoughts here on this epi?
I'd like to say that there are a lot of guys we didn't mention that I really, really thought showed up and showed out. And we can't sit here forever and talk about all of them, but this was one of the most, this is like probably QU winning and then this are like top two right now, genuinely. It was that special. And yeah, changed our opinions on some players. It made our country feel united. It was a 2 year saga that has, for now, come to an end. And it feels so sweet to see the United States win gold at the Olympics. This was a special moment. We don't know how many more of these you get in your life as a hockey fan, as someone that's covering the sport. Um, and like I said, to share that with people that, to talk about it here with you is special. To talk about it with uh, my brother. Of course, he wasn't here with us, but he was watching. And then obviously to be with family was special. And I'm sure you could say the same for being with your dad, for those who are with us, for those who are not. So yeah, I think that's really where my mind goes to all this is about creating having that memory forever is the most special of all because we could talk all day about the hockey stuff, but I think that's what's beautiful about this is that it transcends the game. So, what a special time and what a special episode, my man. It's golden. This episode's golden.
Yeah, man, we should have started with like "God Bless America" and ended with like the Star Spangled Banner.
Do Ray
um,
Charles. Team Ray Charles. I love that. They were listening to Toby Keith in the locker room. Courtesy red, white, and blue. Let's go. I want to see them at the White House. I don't care who's in office. I'm happy that they're going to the White House. I love it. I
Me
love go
too.
to the State of the Union. I love it.
As they
Um,
should.
so
As they
as
should.
they should, right? Doesn't matter.
100%
It's
agree
the
with you.
United States of America. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. It's a hockey game. They won it. It's great. I love it. Enjoy the time with your family. Enjoy the patriotism, no matter what side you're on. It's USA. That's what we are, and I think that's the most important part of this game.
Oh, with
Victory.
that being said, Matt's right. It's USA and Puck Talk CS, baby. As always, follow us along at Puck Talk CS, all of our platforms. And always remember, USA won gold, and it's just the luck of the puck.
Oh, and it was the luck of the puck in that game. Oh, there we go.